Good morning, everybody, and welcome to your personal budget webinar. I am Tamsin Jefferson Harvey, and as a little bit about me, I set up Seed Accounting Solutions in 2015 with a view to really changing the way accountants and business owners interact. We really focus on a working relationship with our clients, and we make sure that our clients are supported and empowered to make the right decisions and help really drive their business forward. So we are going to start off this session with a thought of the day. But before I do that, I just want to throw in our usual disclaimer. The information in this webinar is totally general in nature, and it's really not a substitute for tailored advice. So, and it's not specific to your particular circumstances. Every business is different and every individual is different. So please do bear that in mind. So have a think about our thought of the day. It is critical that kids start to learn the value of money, short-term and long-term savings and budgeting at an early age. Some of us were never taught these things as kids. I certainly know that nobody of my age ever was. But it's never too late to learn, and that's why we're here today. This pandemic has certainly highlighted some gaps in the business community's financial awareness skills, and the best place to start in terms of growing these skills is with ourselves, and therefore our children. I think we can all agree on that. Sometimes as accountants, we often tend to focus more on business budgets and forecasts and not so much on the personal budgeting aspects of financial management. But we do get a lot of questions from clients about their personal spending along the lines of, did I really spend that much last year? i.e. they've seen how much they've taken out of the business and they don't understand why they don't have anything left. So good financial awareness skills start with having a personal budget. So today we're going to cover understanding what we mean by personal budgeting, the obvious as well as the quite unexpected benefits of having a personal budget, the key elements of your personal budget, how to complete it using our free template, which we'll make available at the end of the session as a self-help option for you, how to create an accountability structure so that you stick to your budget as much as possible, your next steps as a result of this webinar, the support that we can offer for those who don't want to go it alone. And of course, you can send your questions in as you go. We'll answer questions at the end of the webinar as part of our Q&A. So what's a personal budget? This is the definition of a personal budget. It's a very useful definition because it makes three important distinctions. Firstly, this is a personal budget. Its purpose and form is quite different to the budget you create for your business. Secondly, your personal budget is not just something you create and then tuck in the bottom drawer. It's an actionable plan that, if followed, will help you achieve financial and lifestyle goals. And lastly, your personal budget is forward-facing for a 12-month period and is broken down into months. It allocates your future personal income, including salaries, drawings, and dividends from the business, towards personal expenses, savings, and investments, and the reduction of personal debt. Put really simply, a personal budget is a plan that lays out how you will spend and save your money. There are many benefits of having a personal budget. Some of these are obvious and financially focused. Others are focused on reducing stress, improving communication with your significant others, and so on. The value in having more control over your financial future can't be underestimated. Focusing on your budget brings your focus to something you can have real control over. As I said at the beginning of this session, personal budgeting helps you focus on your money goals and creates a better awareness of where your money is going. A common comment we get from clients when they look at their annual accounts and see their personal drawings figure is, we can't possibly have spent that much money last year. But you know, if you've ever had this thought, don't worry, you're in very good company. It's a sure sign that by spending just 60 minutes every month, drilling down into your personal spending, you'll have greater awareness of where your money is actually going. Having money goals and an awareness of how much money you are spending and on what creates better money habits, which in turn helps you manage debt levels. This enables you to achieve your wealth goals. And a personal budget can also act as an early warning system because you can anticipate upcoming costs. Having a budget is also important in regards to communication with your spouse. According to the marriage guidance experts, finance conflict is in the top 3 most common argument topics, along with parenting and sex. So at the end of the day, if you have a budget and you use it as one of your wealth creation tools, you will end up with more money and arguably less conflict and stress. So if having a personal budget is such a smart thing to do, why aren't we all doing it? Here we go. Why people avoid personal budgeting. Here are the top 7 reasons why so many of us don't do it. So setting up your annual personal budget and reviewing your progress each month, it does not need to be a time-consuming process. There are some things that you can do to make things easy on yourself. Firstly, you could make sure that all of your personal spending comes from one bank account or credit card, and try not to pay any personal expenses out of business bank accounts. It confuses everything for the business and also for your personal budgeting purposes as well. That way you'll only have one spending source that you have to track, so you don't have to try and sort of look into every single account or credit card. Secondly, get hold of a simple budget template to take the work out of setting one up. As I said, we'll provide you with a very simple template at the end of this session. As an alternative, you could subscribe to a budgeting app such as Good Budget, YNAB or YNAB, Yolt. I'm trying to think of some other ones. Wallet, I think, is one. I personally use YNAB. I've used it for a couple of years now and I get on with it. So that's the one I use. You could even go one step further and join a specialist personal budgeting coaching program, although this step isn't for everyone. Many people don't like the limits they feel that a budget will place on them. But if you think of it as a spending plan instead of a budget, it should be the exact opposite of confining. It should be liberating, because it results in guilt-free spending, because you know other dollars are already, or pounds, or whatever currency you're using, are already allocated to your expenses. You'll no longer have the fear you might run out of money before the end of the month. Just on my mention of dollars, a lot of the budgeting apps are American, but they do work in the UK as well. It just might mean that you can't get sort of bank feeds and things like that, but yeah, they're good. If your problem is simply that you don't know where to start, then a simple budgeting tool and some online training is the solution. There is no doubt that money can be a cause of conflict in a household. I mentioned that in the previous slide. This simple fact prevents many couples from even talking about budgeting, but conflict around money doesn't resolve itself. A personal budget is one simple step that you can take towards a healthier relationship with money. It can be scary at first. You may not want to find out the cost of your coffee habit. However, sticking your head in the sand isn't the answer. Knowledge is power. It's healthier to deal with the truth and move on positively. Pride can be an issue for some of us, but don't let your financial future be harmed because of your preconceived notion about who needs a spending plan. We all do, regardless of whether you've got loads of money to spare or whether you've got no money, or whether you earn loads of money and you spend it all. Everybody needs a budget, because you need to make sure that every penny is given a purpose. Now, if you have money left over, then what's it doing? If it's just sitting in your bank account, it's not doing anything for you. Have a think about what you could do to make it work for you. And finally, I totally understand how easy it is to let budgeting slide. Watching a movie sounds so much more fun than doing a budget. But if you set a monthly calendar reminder to spend an hour each month reviewing your budget and actual spending, it doesn't become quite so difficult. You might even want to consider doing it on a weekly basis. I personally use my budgeting app every day because I spend money every day. And so therefore it's, I just enter in all my transactions and I update things. And obviously by doing it in that way, it's not a big job. It's just something I do. Understanding the benefits and building the habit are the keys to all of this. So our next slide, we're going to be talking about the components of personal budgeting. So the first step in personal budgeting is to set up your 12-month personal budget with income and expenses broken down on a monthly basis. This can be done in an Excel spreadsheet or by using one of the many personal budgeting apps that I mentioned before. So first of all, you enter your monthly income, then you enter your expenses line by line within different categories so that you can see your monthly spend for each category. Seeing how much of your income needs to be allocated towards food, for example, can be very empowering. A lot of people think that they spend, say, £100 in the supermarket each week. So you would therefore assume that it's between £400 and £500 a month that you're spending, because that's what you might do your one weekly grocery shop. But actually, what's the cost of those, top-up shops What's the cost of, the late night booze runs when you realise that you've run out of wine and you want an extra bottle? All of those things add up, and sometimes, in fact often, you suddenly realise that you're spending a whole lot more. It's likely you'll have a good understanding of your monthly income from drawings from the business, wages, rental income, etc. However, you might not fully understand the extent of what you're spending each month. You might just know that you've either got money in your bank account at the end of the month, or you haven't. But to get a better idea of how much you're spending and what you're spending on, it's a good idea to start by analysing your personal bank accounts and credit cards. Be prepared for a shock in some categories. As I said, groceries are one of them. I think lifestyle is another one that's often underestimated as well. If you would prefer to budget on a forward-facing basis, be sure to include big ticket items such as insurance, rates, school or university fees in the months in which they normally fall due, all of those things. You might want to put in your car service and repair every year. In fact, I would highly encourage it. You need to remember to pay your tax bill in January. So you need to make sure that those sort of one-off items are accounted for. You also need to think about Christmas and birthdays and holidays. There's a whole lot of things that people don't necessarily think about and pull into their budget. When budgeting your debt repayments, this is your opportunity to plan for increases or decreases if necessary, according to cash surpluses and your wealth creation plan. So if you know that you're going to be, you want to pay off your credit cards by, I don't know, in 5 years' time, you need to know how much you have to pay on those as a minimum. And I guess if you want to pay them off quicker, you can pay on more. So your personal budget goals may be to accumulate sufficient cash surpluses to invest further in your business or other investments. You might want to buy a rental property, or you might want to invest in some stocks and shares or something. This is your personal budget and it needs to reflect your overarching family goals. So do bear that in mind when you are doing it. So this is our personal budget template, which we'll provide to all of you today once the webinar is over. It's really simple and easy to use, so I'm just going to run you through it using some fake data. So this is the template. It's got full instructions here, but I'm just going to run you through a little bit. I'm going to enter in a couple of figures so that you've got a rough idea of how this works. So first, select the year-end date. So for example, if we want our budget to start in September, we will need to select the year ending 31st of August. So we just change this drop down here and it's 2021. So that's for next year. This will then automatically update the template to begin in September, as you can see down here. Then you enter your name. I'm going to put my name in here. And then you click Begin Budget. This takes you to the first input field down here, as you can see. I'm just going to scroll down so you can see a little bit more. The next step is to enter your monthly income. The fastest way to do this is to select the payment frequency from the drop-down and enter the appropriate amount. So let's say that we receive income from two sources. So let's say every month we receive £5,000. So the frequency is monthly and the amount is £5,000. We press enter and it will then populate all these fields with £5,000 each month. We also anticipate receiving a dividend from the business, £3,000 in November and £3,000 in May. So what we do here is on this frequency, we click on that and select manual. Now what this enables us to do is manually type in the amounts. So next we need to enter our planned expenses. So expenses are listed in 9 categories. So we've got household, we've got these all broken down here, food, wearables, children, are expensive, medical, insurance, transport, lifestyle, and debt repayments. So it's a very comprehensive spreadsheet we've got here. So let's start with our household expenses. So once again, the fastest way to do this is to select the payment frequency from the drop down and enter the appropriate payment amount. So mortgage, I'm going to put in monthly 875. Electricity, gas, heating, we're going to put 145. Obviously, if you don't pay a sort of flat rate fee and you pay based on consumption, you will need to do that manually and sort of override the different amounts, but it depends on what deal you're on. Cleaner, we're going to put in weekly £30. There we go. Lovely. So you go through the same the same process for each category and enter the amount. Obviously, if there's anything in there that's not relevant to you, just leave it, you ignore it, it's fine. As you add data to the spreadsheet, up here at the top, your little donut's going to populate with all the different categories. So here we've got our income breakdown and here we've got our annual expenses. Obviously, we've only put stuff into household at the moment, so it doesn't look too pretty at the moment. So the donut graph will update, and the donut is set to report annually, but you could use the slider to pinpoint any month in the year. So you can use this. So as you can see, it's set to annual, but you could change it to August. You could go to April and so on. So that's really helpful. Obviously, if you've got those one-off costs, you might want to have a look at that. And you've got your cash surplus here as well. So you can see, you can plan ahead. And then on the actual performance, I can just about see this. So basically, once you've filled in your budget, you go into the actual performance and you'll review your budget every month. And what you'll do is you'll enter your actual income and your actual expenses. The budget column will automatically populate when data is entered into the actual column for the month. So if you compare your year-to-date actual with your budget to see if you're on track, you'll then be able to sort of make those decisions and see what you need to do. If after a few months you feel your original budget isn't realistic, make the necessary changes to the personal budget sheet for the remaining months. Don't think that you've got to stick to it. It's a fluid document. So let's now take a look at a completed personal budget. Here's one I prepared earlier. Oh, there we go. So here we have one for Ken and Sue Smith. So as you can see, the donut's sort of broken down a little bit more into all the different categories. You've got your different incomes. This again is based on the annual one. They've got all of their figures in. You can see where they've put in the regular ones. And then you've got their sort of one-off categories. So whiteware, they obviously knew that they needed to get, I don't know, might be a dishwasher, fridge or something. So you're going to have these one-off costs in there. So they've filled it out. They've got all of their expenses in there. They've got an annual cash surplus of £9,000. Now, having done this budget, they might then decide with their £9,000 that they're going to either expand on some of their categories. It might be that they decide they're going to spend more on a holiday, or that they want to spend more on their kids, or that they can afford to do something else. I don't know. They know that they can, allocate more to certain categories. You can see here that they have filled in the actual and the budget and how they've done based on that. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit because this is teeny. So you've got along the top, you've got your cash surplus, and then you've got your cumulative one as well. So if you happen to not do anything with your cash surplus and you let it sit there, then, so as you can see here, so for example, in February 2021, they expected to have a cash surplus of 8,200, a cumulative one of 8,200, but in fact, they only had 5,000, which is totally fine if you've got the money. if you don't have the money, you're in a bit of a problem. So as you can see, this is all really sort of comprehensive. It's very full. They've got all of their expenses, and oh, that's an extra page. Okay, that didn't work. but you can see they've got at the end of the column, so this is just the last few columns on that, you've got the actual budget and variance for the whole year. So this is what you would obviously look at for the next year before you create your personal budget for the following financial year. You might want to have a look at things, well, not your financial year, but whatever your budgeting year is. And a note on the dates as well. You might want to do it as a calendar year. You might want to do it as a tax year. You might want to tie it in with your business financial year as well. So just have a think about what works for you on that basis. In all honesty, because I use an app, mine's just a regular rolling budget. I forecast ahead, so it never really ends. So, I guess if you're looking at annual expenses, it's important to obviously know what your annual expenses are, but everything else just keeps going. We're always paying money, we're always paying our bills, but it's just really helpful. So as you can imagine, once you know what your expenses are, if you're regularly in a deficit, you might want to have a look and see whether you can take more money out of your business. And again, if you are regularly in a deficit and your business is also struggling, the best thing that you can do to start with is to see where you can cut, which categories you can cut. Now, this budget is obviously, they've got enough money coming in, they've got enough to cover their expenses, their personal expenses and things, so they're fine. But by doing this, it's really important to understand that if you don't have enough money to cover your expenses, if you're spending more than you're earning, and therefore you're relying on loans and credit cards and so on, then it's just going to get worse. So you need to take action. So do use this as an opportunity to really see what needs to be done in your personal life in order to drive the business forward. At a time when there's a pandemic and we need to sort of rein in our spending a little bit and potentially be a little bit more cautious on things, really important that you don't just keep going and blowing money on various different things, especially if you don't have it. So if you can rein in your business spending by reducing your personal spending, that's a really good starting point, because there are overheads in a business that need it to operate. And so it's really important to look at your personal budget. And this is obviously why we're doing this webinar right now. So that is our personal budget template. And I hope that's been helpful to have a look at. So once you've done your budget, it's really helpful to have an accountability framework. So there's a little point in preparing a personal budget if you don't monitor your progress. Preparing the budget will be a valuable experience as you'll learn where your money actually goes. However, it is only the first step. The enduring value comes from seeing your spending habits improve and having open and comfortable discussions about where money goes and how you're achieving your personal financial goals. It's an absolute must to track your spending on a monthly basis. I would encourage it to be done on a weekly basis or even a daily basis, but I appreciate we all have busy lives. And so monthly is better than nothing, but monthly as a minimum, because you need to review everything on a monthly basis. Your costs are mostly monthly. For some couples, discussions about spending and budgeting are normal, and for others, particularly where money behaviours differ, conversations about money are more tense. In this case, some people may consider engaging an external facilitator to sit down with you to work out your budget and be a non-judgmental sounding board. This can also provide independent accountability. I'm not a facilitator. I do not want to be sat in uncomfortable situations, but there are plenty of people who do that. And if you would like to be put in touch with someone, I can find someone for you. We do, however, offer a personal budgeting coaching session as a result of this webinar. This is not something that we do normally, but we understand the importance of it at a time like this. So we are offering personal budgeting coaching sessions, which will help you build out your personal budget and help you understand your personal finances a little bit better. Finally, throughout the process, try to have some fun and bring some light to what can be a serious topic. Celebrate your wins. And yes, your celebration may involve spending money as long as you have budgeted for it. So thinking back to our thought of the day, don't hide this from your children. Let them see you set aside time to work out your budget. Show them your budget. Explain what pots of money are for where. Make the process seem normal and lighthearted where you can, and not ominous and scary. And hopefully we can break this cycle of not talking about money to our children and not educating children about money, not educating children about money. Finally, we're now moving on to your next steps. We know that focusing on personal spending can seem confrontational. You may get worried that your spouse or your accountant will judge your spending. I promise I won't. That's really not the focus of setting a personal budget. Your personal budget is just that. It's personal. It's yours alone. Your budget simply reflects your decisions around how you spend your earnings and how much should be left over for debt reduction, savings, investments, and so on. Some people like to spend their money on shopping, clothes shopping, or I don't know, shoes or cars. Other people prefer to spend their money on holidays. Other people prefer to spend their money on their children. It's personal. It's totally down to you. So instead of dwelling on the roadblocks, the ones that I covered earlier on, time, fear, pride, and so on, remember to focus on the benefits: better control, focus and awareness, improved money habits, and achieving your wealth creation goals. Focus on the benefits you seek to gain, and then take that first step of setting your annual personal budget. Use our simple tool, or choose an app that works for you. If anyone wants to chat or to discuss any of the apps, well, I can't help with any of the other apps, but I can give you my personal experience from YNAB. Focus on the expenses you can and you want to control, and get support from us if you need help or independent accountability. We are here to help. So I've mentioned a couple of times how we can help you in this webinar, and here's just a brief overview of how we can help you. So we can do a personal budget review session. So this would just be going through your budget, sort of helping you with the accountability side of it. It would be an hour session online. We'll go through your budget, help make suggestions, and sort of pick apart a few things and ask questions. We are also offering an initial coaching session along with a budget review, and that's the £350 plus VAT. Now this will be a little bit longer and more in-depth, and obviously very much tailored to you, your needs, and your specific situation. Personal budget template, as I've mentioned, that's totally free. If anybody wants it, all we ask is that you complete the survey at the end of this webinar, and there's an option in there to just tick that you want the template. The reason we do this is that I don't have any, this isn't an automated sort of sending out of a budget template. It's just me doing it. So what we do ask in the survey, there are a couple of other questions in there. It's just feedback about this webinar, about future webinars, and just to make sure that we're on the right track. We do ask for your email, but that is only so that we can send you whatever is needed as a result of the feedback. We don't put you on any mailing lists or anything. And finally, if you'd like a complimentary business meeting to discuss your business, you can also book in with that. So those 4 options are all available on that survey at the end of this webinar. So please do complete the survey and let us know how we can help you, and we can go from there. And before we go, I'm just going to share this one final quote with you, because I love a quote. A budget is telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. And this is by a very famous man in the budgeting world called Dave Ramsey. He's a little bit controversial, but he has helped a lot of people get out of financial difficulty. So do look him up. I personally don't agree with his credit card approach. You might also want to look at Martin Lewis. He's another good person, money saving expert. He's another good sort of personal budgeting person, and he's based in the UK. Dave Ramsey's American. But ultimately, the quote here is, it's having the foresight to decide where your money's going. It's being proactive. It's taking control of where your money is going. Don't think, oh, where's it all gone? It's already done now. There's nothing you can do about it. Take action and be happier. And that's it. Thank you very much for making the time to attend this webinar. I really do appreciate that time is precious right now. And, I appreciate you attending and taking the time to watch it. Please do complete the survey at the end of this session so that we can ensure we improve our sessions, and also get some feedback on what other webinar topics you'd like to see from us. I do hope that I've given you plenty of ideas to ponder and some clear next steps for you and your significant others.